Welcome on back, everyone. I found a lizard, so I made myself a little terrarium for it. Anyways, got some big projects today. Before I get on to doing those, I want to show this off. You can throw logs into the dissolver to get cellulose, and then you can throw it into the compactor to get cellulose dust. And then you can use those to make cardboard boxes. And they're pretty useful. Got a handful of them made already. They can be used to move other blocks, and this can include blocks that otherwise doesn't have a method of moving it. Like, even if you use Silk Touch, you won't be able to break the block to move it. Now, while I was mining around the river here, I noticed a very strange looking formation of basalt. So what I just used was a dowsing rod, which gives you scrying. It lets you see magical creatures, but it can also let you see where amethyst is at. So it turns out here, right at the start of, like right in front of the world spawn, there was an amethyst geode. And needless to say, I also go and collect from the geode I found in the first video way back when. So I just break on through the basalt and the calcite, and there we go, amethyst. And strangely, this geode has this pretty looking effect here. I don't know what it is. You can't really interact with it, but it looks neat, I guess. But now that I have some boxes, what we can do is use the box on these budding amethysts. Because remember, even if you use Silk Touch on it, it's just gonna break. And that is how you can move the budding amethyst. So I go ahead and grab a few blocks worth and bring them on back to base. Just want to check out the pretty little effect here. And then you can use a tablet of awakening on a ritual brazier next to a budding amethyst to make an amethyst golem. Doesn't he look cute? Now these guys, I believe they can turn regular amethyst blocks into more budding amethysts. But they can also harvest the amethyst clusters that form on an amethyst block. To get them working, you just got to use the Dominion Rod to set their home. And I decided to set their home as the chest right here. And just like that, he starts harvesting them. Now, he doesn't automatically put them in the chest like I had hoped, so I'm gonna cut here and get a starbuncle to collect everything. I'll later attach a importer onto this chest so then it can take in all of the amethysts. I also set up a compacting drawer later on, so the amethyst shards will also be compacted into amethyst blocks if I want them. And then I can turn those amethyst blocks into source blocks with the imbuer. So now I don't really have to worry about generating amethyst or generating source gems. Now with all that done, let's few things I want to do. Today's video is going to be about doing stuff in the farming area, so I need to grab a few items before I head on over. And I should talk about this item here, the flux power, and how you generate the, you need to make flux powder or flux dust to be able to make these things. So let's just pretend that I'm at the very bottom of the world. I'm at the bedrock layer. And instead of a flux block, it's bedrock, okay? What you do is you throw your redstone above it, and then left click on the obsidian over it, and there you go, flux dust. And then you can combine the dust to make the block, so then you don't have to keep running down to the bottom of the world every time you want to make more flux dust. And what that does is let me have wireless power. Pretty useful. Now, as you can see here, I've done a lot of work on the farming area. I've leveled it out for the most part. Got all kinds of different trees growing right now. And then we have these oil wells here on the farm. Now, I originally was going to use buckets, but there's so many blocks that that would just take too long. Then I thought about just filling the space in, but that would just be a perfectly good waste of oil. So instead, I need to make sure that this hose pulley is over the deepest portion of the well. Need to get a pipe on the export, I guess, side of the hose pulley. And then I'm going to create some more wireless stuff. The dimensional storage mod lets you make dimensional storage. Pretty much iron, redstone, diamonds, and ender pearls are needed to make the stuff. And of course you need glass for the tanks. And the way these work is that you can change the frequency on them. And obviously they link up to other storage of the same frequency. Now we're just going to slap a motor onto this. Let's cut down the speed so I don't use up too much power. And then you simply attach a flux point to it, and there you go, it's powered. I also like the sound effects that the interface for flux points have. So now the hose pulley is in the deepest part of the well. Just need to set the pipes to extract. And there we go, it's now extracting all of the oil out of here. So you'll want the hose to be at the very bottom, and then it starts from the top and starts draining it down. If you don't have it at the very bottom, it'll just drain down to that point, but nothing below it. Now, as to where all that oil is going, oh, first off, here's the portion of where my flux is getting its power from. You need to build a flux power storage unit to actually use these. But on the back side here, I have another storage drawer here set up for fluids. And obviously it's got the experience from the mob farm, and now I'm storing oil in it. Oil will be useful later, so that's why I want to store it all. So now we can finally start working on the farm. As you see, I've done some work here on the grow tower. Don't think I've mentioned this before, but the reason why I'm doing a tower like this is that if I ever need more farmland, I can just build upward as opposed to building horizontally. Also, on my harvester here, I have these plows on the inner edge and the outer edge. That way I could see exactly where the harvester can actually reach, so I'm not putting blocks around where it won't be able to harvest any of them. Next up, we need an item that I am struggling to remember the name of. The storage interface. What this thing does is if you hook it up to a contraption, it will then interact with another one that it passes by to either put stuff in or take stuff out of the contraption. So whenever this thing turns and they meet up like that, they connect. And I know I said I didn't want to do it this way, but the star bunkle is having some issues. Also, there'd just be problems with the verticality of this. I would have to either have a star bunkle on every level, and just rather not deal with that. Now over here I have a chest set up for all my seeds. And what I'm trying to set up here is basically a way to harvest all my stuff, have it then be dropped off into this chest here, and then have all my stuff be sorted out. For right now, the contraption isn't actually depositing anything because I've made a mistake, which I'll fix shortly. Till then, though, I'm gonna attach a pipe onto this chest that's only set to accept seeds. And then I'm going to want to throw all of my... Okay, so that first chest is for regular seeds. This second chest will be for the mystical agriculture seeds, as well as mystical agricultural essences. God, I just love the sound of the animals when this is sped up. And now this chest over here will be for... So the first chest of seeds is for excess seeds. This second chest will be for the excess of the excess seeds. Well, no, the first chest is more of a backup seed holder. So I'll always have seeds that... I'll always have access to seeds if I ever decide to change what I'm growing. And then this chest takes... Whenever those first seeds has a full stack's worth, they'll be moved on into here. Not sure why I did that. I guess I got confused that I didn't have item pipes in my hand. And then I want to set up a pipe upgrade on here. Specifically the gold one. The iron one doesn't do what I want it to do. With a gold upgrade, you can set up the distribution of the pipe. And in this case, I want to do nearest first to ensure that all the seeds go into this one first. And then once this one gets full, they all go into the other chest. And then what I do a little bit later is I just take a bunch of dirt blocks and use them to fill empty spots in the chest to ensure that only one stack of each seed will be in the chest. Now that we've got that done, I'm going to show off the dimensional chest. So just like the dimensional storage, or I guess the tank, this one will work as a chest. And what's neat about these is that they also work across dimensions, so no need to get an ender chest for all this stuff. And then of course we need to hook this up into this chest here. As at this point I realize my mistake with the contraption. For contraptions to actually collect what they harvest, they need to have a chest attached to them. And a side note, dimensional chests do not work, unfortunately. I've tried it. So just any old chest, slap that on in, glue it on. Sounds like something got harvested, so let's see the item drop on in. Alright, so for some reason it didn't actually appear. Usually you do see the items drop from one chute to the other. It didn't in this case. Kind of strange, but whatever. As long as it works. And as we can see here it is. Yeah, such a shame that we can't actually see it in action, but whatever. It's working, obviously. Now, next up, what I'm going to start doing is show off the laser IO mod. And those things also need like a whole bunch of redstone and iron and stuff. Well, I say that, but it also has a particular item like unique to it, where you'll need to make these logic chips, which requires throwing raw chips into a furnace. And thankfully you can bulk blast them, so just go ahead and do that real quick. Now that I've done that, I've made several different items. We've got these laser nodes, which attach directly to a container. And then you have item cards, which you need to put on the nodes. So we can see now there's a little laser pointing to the chest. And then by shift and right clicking, we can change how the cards work. And in this case, I set this card up to be an extract card. So now this one will pull items from the chest. And you can change like how many items gets taken out. And then by right clicking on it with a wrench, a laser IO wrench specifically, you can then select another nearby node and it'll start dropping stuff off in there. And then over here, I've got chests set up for food items. Now, you can only connect to things within 8 blocks. So that's what these items are used for, which you can use to kind of extend the range. Unfortunately, this is a little bit too far, though. I'm trying to count it out. But there we go. Now in this chest, it's to take in food items, but not take in like any of the things like barley and wheat and whatnot. Also, side note, it is very important that you actually pay attention to which part of the block that you're actually putting your item card in. In this case, I put mine in the north facing and not the east facing. Also, you can set up the cards to do different distribution methods like round robin or not. So now this chest is going to evenly split up food items between this chest and that other chest. I'm just trying to figure out the filters seem to kind of break if you have multiple filters in the same chest, unfortunately. But we can kind of work around that by making these filter items for the item cards. In this case, I want to make sure that like no sugar cane or wheat or whatnot ends up in this chest. And then you just slap the filter right on in there. Alright, seems to be working just fine. Next up, it's probably time to address the railroads here. There is a mod in this pack called Little Logistics. And it's neat because it adds little trains to this game. Instead of having to use the create trains, which are like more sizable. To load trains, you need to use hoppers. And unfortunately, you can't use the Omni hoppers from Pneumatic Craft. And little mistake on my part here. They need to be on the same level as the storage carts, not one above. Now there are different locomotives you can make. I go with the energy one. You can also use a steam locomotive, which uses fuel like coal. And then you need to make a locomotive route to tell the train where it needs to go. And by the way, I went on ahead and carved out a little river down here. That way I can access the sea from my house. And I've also done a bunch of work down here. Now right there I've got a charger for the train. Then you just need to set up these chains to hook up your carts to it. Slap in the location device, and there it goes. Now, to answer the obvious question of why am I using this train if I've got chests that can, dimensional storage, it's because I like trains. Also, a slight problem here. The train is not properly switching rails. It's a little annoying. But not as annoying as me realizing that I messed up with the hoppers here. So let's retry all this. Yeah, so much junk fell on the floor. Now my inventory's full. But that that train is collecting things from the hopper. And there we go. Just throw all this junk on back. Then I just gotta fix up the rail here. There we go. So now the train is properly stopping and able to come on back to the supply depot over here. Now for a train to offload its stuff, you need to have hoppers underneath the rails. And then I have this here pipe that leads to two different chests. This one over here holds food. I've got a whole bunch of filters and void upgrades to keep it stocked. So now all of my food is being automatically delivered here. And then on the other side, I have a chest that will later be connected to an importer, which then takes in the rest of the stuff. So now that we've got all this food, I'm just checking to make sure that all the items in there actually have nutritional value. Next up, I'm going to build some things up here. So the food in this chest will go into a source farm for food items. And I want to throw down a whole bunch of this podzol because the way the mycelial source links work is that they will turn dirt blocks into mycelium, and then they'll grow mushrooms on there. But I actually don't want that to happen. I want to have those spots open because later on I'll throw on some botania flowers in those open spots. I'll just go ahead and give this a quick test run. And there we go, it works. So we'll just go ahead and fill up the rest of this area with some more podzol. Now just showing here, I've gone on ahead and thrown a chest here for the mystical agriculture seeds and essences, because those were not properly being stored over here. And as you notice, I've moved all the animals away into this little area right on over here. So I've got the animals here. I've also got a little pond underneath here of various sea creatures. And I also got a siren charm. You use that on a block of prismarine and you'll get a siren. And they generate sea treasure drops. I don't know if that's just like if they will generate more prismarines and stuff like that, or if it's just sea animal drops. Then at the bottom of this, as you can see, I got pipes coming in from up top. I'll just throw down another dimensional chest. That way all the items that are harvested here goes into that one chest that's dropping food off in one chest and the rest of the stuff onto the train. Get our drigamies on in over here. And in this chest here, I've set up some void filters because there's some items that I just don't want that the drigamies will harvest or the whirly sprigs will harvest. I don't need sticks coming in, for example. So now we have all kinds of animal products coming in. Not just animals, but fish. We got ink sacs coming in. Pretty good deal. And we also get the fruit from the whirly sprigs. Now for this chest over here, that chest is for combustibles like logs. So let's go ahead and test this out real quick, make sure I have everything set up correctly. Perfect. So now, just like with the food, half the logs end up over here in the train station, and the other half end up in this chest. So now that's automated food, automated animal products, automated leather, wool, and now logs. And as you can see up here, I've got my endo flames set up. And in this section, we're going to have volcanic source links, which requires buckets of lava, so gotta go out and grab those. So what's neat is you don't need to have pedestals for the source links to consume items. You just need to drop it within the 8 surrounding blocks, just like that. And obviously I can then throw the Botania flowers in that open space so they will also consume whatever gets dropped. Now I just want to show off over here. I mentioned you can move all kinds of blocks with cardboard boxes, which includes the fruits leaves of the various fruit trees. If you try using shears on them, they just break. They don't drop like regular leaves do. And then we can just pop the box off and there we go. These leaves do disappear though. They need to be attached to a log. But still, now I've shown off you can move the fruit leaves. And then I temporarily disconnected this system just to see what is being collected so I can then void out whatever I don't want being collected. And by the by, you know what, never mind. Let's talk about this. Behold, what I have done is I've taken all kinds of different logs and made a 3x3 tree, threw in a whole bunch of different leaves on there, including different crop leaves. So now I have like something close to like 20 different types of logs, as well as there's saplings coming in and all kinds of different fruits coming in as well. So what I've done with this over here is I've added more nodes. One is dedicated just to food extraction, and the other one is dedicated to logs. That way, you know, the top one doesn't get overwhelmed. And then over here, I made a little setup for sugarcane, because I have some future plans for sugar here. It does involve the seeds over here too. Now, with the mechanical squeezer, you get a whole bunch of, you get like the best sugar ratio out of it. And then for paper, I'm gonna build this here compressor, which requires all sorts of different little things. Most of it stuff that you just bulk blast, like more iron or slime into rubber. And what this thing does is it can, just like with the squeezer with sugar, this gets you more paper for your sugar cane. One problem though, this mod apparently decides that it's unique and needs its own source of power, which I believe is joules. And while there is a way to convert joules into forge energy, there is no way to turn forge energy into joules. So I would have to set up a second system, and I just decide, you know what, I'm not going to deal with that. For now though, we're just going to use this squeezer to squeeze sugar. Then I try several different methods, but nah, that thing doesn't want to take any power. So now this system here, on the left side, we've got an encased fan blowing lava. And this chest has all kinds of, all of my different types of logs. Now I've got these filters here set up so it'll take out any items that can be blasted. So all the logs will drop on down into here. And then once those logs turn into coal, that bottom funnel has a filter to only accept coal. And then it all comes back into this system, into this chest with an advanced compacting upgrade, where it'll then automatically compact all the coal into blocks, because it's more fuel efficient to do that. And don't stand too close, otherwise you'll just collect everything. And then likewise over here, I have an encased fan blowing a permanent fire. If you set fire to netherrack, it never extinguishes. And then I have a filter set up for items that can be smoked. You know, like good old Mark Zuckerberg talks about his smoked meats. Strangely enough, all kinds of these different fish from aquaculture cannot be smoked, which is strange. You would think any kind of fish could be smoked, but nope. And then yeah, likewise, this funnel only accepts items that have been smoked, and then it comes on back into this chest up here. And then these chests are hooked up to these pipes that are pointing at these chests over here. And this is neat because I don't have to worry about setting up interface terminals. I can just have the pipes there ready to go. And then of course I got the motor here that's creating all the rotational force to have everything here work. I got this gantry shaft here, which will move the contraption forward and backward depending on the gear shift setting. Now up here, as you can see, I've set up all the source links up. I'll worry about the Botania flowers a little bit later. But now, what we do is set up these funnels up here. And then you set up each funnel. You can change the amount extracted. For here I do 6, but later on I changed it down to 2. 6 is just way too much. And then once again, I got these filters. This one's set to only drop items that are combustible, and then the other set of filters are items that are not combustible. So now all the fuel will properly come out on the side of the volcanic source links, and all the food will come out on this side with the mycelial source links. And I do have a timer on standby ready to get this all going. But, uh-oh, I made a little mistake. I forgot to glue the funnels on. Whoops. So let's just go ahead and fix that on up. Alright, let's try this again. And there we go. Working beautifully. It's dropping all the items off into the source links, which are then consuming everything and then transporting it all to nearby source link jars. And then once the contraption comes on back, it automatically gets refilled by these pipes. Then I do want to upgrade the pipes so that the chests get filled quicker. There we go. We can see there's taking quite a good amount of each item type out of there. Later on, I do upgrade them to diamonds so that, or no, sorry. I upgrade the chests that are connected to the contraption themselves so I can then put a filter on them and set them up to not take in any of the logs, so that the logs stay in here until they get turned into charcoal. And then likewise, I do it on the food section so that none of the raw food that could be smoked doesn't go into the chest until after it's been smoked. And just showing this off, with diamond upgrades you can set up whitelist and blacklists. Alright, let's get this thing going. I do want to set this timer up to wait a little bit longer, just to give the pipes time to refill. But I do make another mistake. Oh, look at that. It's beautiful, isn't it? The mistake I made was that I used the wrong type of latch. So I had to swap it out for the toggle latch and not the regular latch, which is why this contraption isn't going backwards. But you know, minor trivial fix. So just to reiterate, I now have this omnigraph tree here producing something close to 20 different types of logs and saplings, with like 25 or so different types of fruits coming in. I've got drigamies here harvesting animal drops. I've got starbunkles in here to grab the eggs from the ducks and the chickens. I've got fish and octopi under in the pond. I've got the grow tower here that I can just continuously scale upwards if I want to, you know, for more farming purposes. Everything gets sent into this building here. And just to mention, I've ended up using a depot with a smasher to make paper. It is extremely slow, but it's consistent paper. everything ends up in this dimensional chest where it then gets sorted out. Half of all of my food and logs go into here, as well as any and all animal products. And then the other half of the food and logs go over into this system here. I've lowered the blasting, the encased fan stuff, because it would only, the funnels would only drop one stack and stop. But with an extra bit of space, like it doesn't detect that there's a full stack underneath it, so it'll just drop everything. And then everything gets connected into these pipes here, into the nearby chest, into the contraption, which then drops off all the charcoal and all the food, which then turns into source and mana. Let's get a better look on how this system works. Just look at that. So I now have pretty much unlimited source. Not too bad, huh? Later.